Welcome back to the deep dive. So if you're here, you're probably looking for a shortcut, a way to get a really clear and thorough handle on using stakeholder feedback effectively.
Right, without having to read hundreds of pages of management theory.
Exactly.
And that's what we're here to do. We've been going through the Fearless Feedback Leadership Framework by Amy Kosterlitz, Kathleen Marin, Kelly Ross, and their team.
And what I love about this framework is how it takes something that's usually, messy and full of anxiety.
Oh, absolutely.
And it turns it into this structured, repeatable, 7-step system.
It's a huge mental shift.
It is. The whole foundational idea is that feedback isn't just some, magical gift that you get once in a while. It's a skill.
Like any other skill.
Like coding or playing an instrument. It takes repetition, and more than anything, it needs structure. This framework gives you that structure.
And even before we get to step one, the authors make it really clear that leaders have to clarify two things right up front. First, what is your purpose? I mean, why are you even asking for comments in the first place?
Is it for a general performance check-in or something really specific?
Exactly, like how you handle conflict.
Yeah.
And second, and this is so important, is that structure matters from the jump.
You can't just send out a vague email asking, how am I doing?
No, you need specific goals, a hand-picked group of people, and an actual strategy for how you're going to ask. That's the real difference between getting, vague good jobs and getting actual actionable data.
So if a leader thinks there are communication problems, for example.
You don't just ask about communication. It's way too broad. The pre-work here forces you to get specific. Something like, I need feedback on the clarity of my quarterly messaging to the dev team.
That initial focus, it sounds like it saves the whole process from failing later on.
It does.
Okay, let's unpack this. Let's dive into the official framework, starting with the what and the why.
So step one is determine the goal of stakeholder input. If you skip this, or if your goal is even a little bit fuzzy, you just risk collecting mountains of data that are, well, totally irrelevant to your growth.
You called it organizational whiplash earlier. I like that.
Yeah, that's what it is. You're basically asking, what precise outcome are we trying to get here?
Okay.
Let's use that project manager example. If they want to improve teamwork, they need to drill down. Is the goal to boost efficiency numbers?
Or is it about morale because the team is burnt out?
Or maybe it's to fix a specific ongoing fight between two departments. Each of those goals leads to a completely different set of questions and a different set of stakeholders.
And it's crucial then to connect that goal to the bigger picture.
Absolutely. The framework is very firm on this. The purpose of the feedback has to align with your bigger, long-term development objectives.
Otherwise, you've just wasted everyone's time.
You've gathered academic trivia instead of operational intelligence. It's useless.
That makes so much sense. So once that why is solid in step one, we move to step two, which is arranging the feedback engagement.
Right, from the internal motivation to the external planning.
And this is where we get into the practical, I'd almost say protective steps you need to get truthful input, because that's where this usually falls apart, right?
It is. This is the prep step.
Yeah.
And it requires mastering two key strategies. The first one is non-negotiable.
Which is?
Sure, confidentiality. You have to build absolute trust. Leaders have to make it crystal clear that participants' answers will have zero bearing on their job, their status, their future at the company. Nothing.
I think the key insight there is that bad data is actually worse than no data at all.
Yes.
If people don't believe you on confidentiality, you're not just getting less feedback, you're getting actively misleading feedback.
People will sanitize everything. They'll tell you what they think you want to hear.
Yeah.
And that just guarantees the whole thing fails when you try to act on it later.
It's a trust exercise.
It's everything. The framework treats it like a logistical necessity, not some soft skill.
Okay, so confidentiality is number one. What's the second piece of planning in step two?
Deciding on a time frame. You have to establish a precise schedule.
A start date and an end date.
Exactly. For gathering and for analyzing the input. That simple step stops the process from just dragging on forever, which leads to fatigue and makes the whole thing feel less important.
Okay, so once that foundation of trust and time is set, we move to the real execution. Step three, manage process and logistics.
This is the day-to-day, making sure it all runs smoothly.
And this involves a couple of really tactical decisions, right? It's all about how you collect and preserve the data.
That's right. First, you determine the mode of the interview. You have to pick the format that fits the stakeholders and the kind of information you need.
So an online survey for lots of quantitative data, maybe?
For sure. But if you need nuanced, sensitive feedback about, say, a personal conflict, You probably need a one-on-one, in-person meeting.
It's about using the right tool for the job. And the second decision,
Is establishing a clear, consistent note-taking procedure.
consistency is key.
It's paramount. Whether you use a digital recorder or just pen and paper, the process has to be the same for everyone so nothing gets lost or misinterpreted when you move into the analysis phase.
Got it. So once the logistics are locked down in step 3, all that planning is kind of pointless if the actual conversations don't produce anything useful.
Exactly. Which is why step 4 is arrange and manage interviews. This is the heart of the interaction.
This is where you actually talk to people.
And the framework really stresses the need for a clear, detailed structure for those talks. You need to plan your questions, know your opening and closing, and have a consistent way to handle it when, sensitive topics come up.
Right. Because if you're asking about, say, a team building event and you don't have a structure,
You'll just get random stories about the food instead of real insights on team cohesion. The structure keeps the conversation focused on the goal from step 1.
and there's another key part of this step, a communication piece.
Yes, the interim leader update. This is huge. It means you proactively keep the leader in the loop on how the feedback gathering is going. You pass along any new, non-sensitive insights right away.
That keeps the leader engaged, manages their expectations, especially if the feedback is pointing somewhere they didn't expect. So once all the interviews are done, we move to step 5, which is prepare the stakeholder feedback report, the synthesis part.
This is where we sift through everything we've gathered. The first action is pretty straightforward but vital. Analyze the data. You're looking for recurring themes, emerging patterns, anything noteworthy that stands out from the noise.
I get that, but a huge roadblock here is always confirmation bias. Leaders see what they want to see. How does this framework deal with that?
That's a great question. The power of this structure is that by sticking so strictly to the goal from step 1 and the questions from step 4, you force the analysis to be objective. You're not looking for feelings, you're looking for quantifiable patterns that link directly back to the original objective you set out.
So it holds the analyst accountable to the purpose.
Okay.
And the second action in step 5 is about making sure the report is actually usable.
Yes. You have to take reporting preferences into consideration. Some leaders just want a quick summary, maybe some graphics.
The highlights.
Exactly. Others might need a deep, detailed report with raw quotes. Delivering the information in the format they can best absorb is critical for them to actually adopt it.
The format and the timing of that delivery, it's everything. Which brings us to, I guess, the moment of truth. Step 6, have a leader debriefing.
The goal here is delivering that criticism constructively. But the biggest challenge is always managing the leader's defensiveness.
How does the framework tackle that?
It addresses it head on, starting with timing. You pick the right time to deliver the report. Not when they're stressed about a deadline, not right before vacation.
You wait until they're actually capable of processing potentially difficult news.
You're setting the stage for engagement, not for a fight. And during that meeting, the very first thing you do is re-examine the goals from step 1. You remind the leader why this was done, how it supports the growth objectives they identified.
That reframes the whole conversation.
Completely. It shifts from, here's where you failed, to, here is the roadmap to get to that goal we set together months ago. It makes the data a tool, not a report card.
That's a powerful psychological shift, and it leads right into the final and maybe most important step. Step 7, co-create development plan.
This is the payoff.
We're not just dropping off a report and running away.
No, you're building an action plan with the leader. That creates ownership.
This is where the rubber meets the road.
It is. And the first step in drafting that plan is to start with their vision, their lofty long-term objectives. You have to make sure the growth plan aligns with their overall career goals so they are personally invested, so they have skin in the game.
So it doesn't feel like a punishment. It feels tied to their own ambition.
And finally, you have to decide which focus areas to concentrate on.
You can't fix everything at once.
Never. Based on all the input, it is always better to focus on a few key areas instead of trying to tackle every single issue. It's like trying to run 20 programs on your computer at once.
Everything just freezes.
You have to ruthlessly prioritize the 2 or 3 things that will have the biggest impact.
You know, this whole fearless feedback leadership framework, it's really remarkable. It turns this vague, scary idea of getting feedback into a structured 7-step machine.
It's designed for application and for accountability.
The whole process, From that first bit of clarification in step 1, through the trust building in step 2, all the way to co-creating that focus plan in step 7.
It just ensures the feedback is practical, useful, and most of all, actually actionable for the leader.
For sure. The value for you listening is a clear step-by-step way to get, analyze, and apply feedback. It helps you avoid that feeling of being totally overwhelmed by information. And remember that final insight.
That giving and getting feedback is a skill. It takes repetition. So, you know now that clarifying your purpose and building that structure is the foundation. It's step 1. And since mastery requires repetition, maybe here's a final thought to take with you.
Okay.
Think about one simple, very low-stakes area of your work right now. It could be how you ran a meeting last week or how you explained a task. And just ask yourself, how could I apply only the principles of step 1 to that?
Just to practice the mechanics.
It's just a practice. Clarify a purpose for getting input, set a tiny time frame, and think about confidentiality. Start building that skill now.